Good morning, Calvary University. So happy you're here this morning. You picked a wonderful chapel to attend, to use one of your attendance at. Yeah. Today we have the benefit, as you can see, of having our play preview day. It's always an encouraging day, always an exciting day. I hope you have the chance to get out to the play this weekend. And I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Kenneth England.
I could speak loud enough without the microphone for you to hear me, but anybody online would not hear me. So hello, I'm Kenneth England. I am the chair of the theater department. And this week, starting tonight, we are having audiences for As You Like It, written by Shakespeare. And it's going to be great. And I think I saw some eyes glass over as soon as I said Shakespeare. Hopefully, what you see in chapel here will change your minds. It's a really fun play. We've had some guests watch our rehearsals, and I just enjoyed looking over and just seeing them like the whole time. So it's a lot of fun. So I have, if you're interested in seeing it, our full performances are this Thursday, 2 days away, tomorrow, at 11:30 a.m., Friday night at 7:30, Saturday night at 7:30, and Sunday at 2. You can purchase tickets through the box office on Calvary's website, and you have the choice of in-person tickets or online tickets because we will be streaming it as well. If you are a student and have paid the student activity fees, you get a free ticket, and you should have received a couple emails telling you how to get a hold of your free ticket. Faculty and staff, there have been a couple emails sent out about how to get your faculty and staff discounts for tickets as well. So, no excuses. It's very accessible. Please come. All right, so we're gonna give you a little taste of what the show is. But first, I have a very important question. How many of you know anything about Shakespeare? Raise your hand. Holy crap. I expected 2 people. Well, I hate to inform you, you're all wrong. You know nothing about Shakespeare because nobody knows anything about Shakespeare. That's a spicy comment. Is Tim Haines here yet? Oh, okay. I can't make Shakespeare spicy comments. That's a joke because there are multiple theories that Shakespeare is not who people think he is, and there is a controversy in the academic circles about the actual identity of Shakespeare. And it's really fun because it's mostly academic nonsense, but it's really fun to offend people when you say that Shakespeare is not Shakespeare. Shakespeare is actually a guy called Edward de Vere. Nope, he's not here yet. I can't offend him. Okay, but anyway, just so you know, Shakespeare, no matter who Shakespeare was, he was very influential because he wrote many plays, upwards of, around 50 plays in his lifetime. And what's remarkable about them is that they have survived for centuries and they are still regularly done today. And he does that mainly because he has this very interesting mix of beautiful poetic language and expression coupled with the truth of the human experience. And so even though his plays were written in a very specific time for a very specific audience, they are so impactful today because we deal with universal truths, loss, depression, love, and he focuses on that. And those themes, those struggles that we all go through, that's universal, and it will be true till the end of time. And then even after. I'm not a theologian. We're not going to talk about the afterlife, the millennium, and all that. But here, in the life we live in, we struggle with, pain. And that's a huge thing with the loss of family members, with depression, with anger, and all of that is in Shakespeare, and it's expressed very poetically. And that is why it has endured. So just so you know, Shakespeare wrote in 2 different forms. Prose, which is kind of fancy plain speak, so he uses a lot of big words and a lot of fancy grammatical structures. But it's pretty much just plain English, with maybe the subject of the sentence at the end instead of at the beginning. But he also wrote in verse, which is iambic pentameter. You don't need an English lesson. I won't bore you with that. But that is literal metered poetry. And so there's a mix of that on this play. But by and large, As You Like It is mostly written in prose. So no excuses of, I don't understand iambic pentameter, so I'm not going to come see the show. Because it's mostly prose. But that's that. The scene we have for you is written in prose. It's going to be performed by Francine Washington and Ethan Zirup, and it's really great. But before that, a bit about As You Like It. The play itself was written in about 1599. So we're talking old school here. It is a pastoral comedy, and all that essentially means is it was a genre of plays of the day, which essentially means we're going to leave the city, go to the country, and have wacky adventures and fall in love. That's pretty much what a pastoral comedy is. It's what's really interesting about As You Like It is it's very reminiscent of another play that Shakespeare wrote called Twelfth Night. But Twelfth Night was written after As You Like It, so this is kind of like his test run. And so it's really interesting. There's a lot of themes that Shakespeare then expands upon later in his writing career. Interesting fact about As You Like It is the leading character is Rosalind. And Rosalind is the second largest Shakespearean female character ever. And so it's really interesting. Francine has had her work cut out for her. She has twice as many lines as anyone else in the show. It was like 380 lines that Francine had to memorize. The next closest person had 180 lines to memorize. So it's been a lot of work and a long road, but we got it. As You Like It has a lot of famous quotes that you've probably heard of and didn't know that this is where the quotes came from. The first one is, the fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool. I'm sure you've heard variations of that. Came from this play. All the world's a stage. How many of you have heard that? Came from this show. Our inimitable Callie Weeks Johnson. Sorry, she's sitting next to Adam Weeks. I got it mixed up. There we go. Callie gets to give that monologue. All the world's a stage. I'm going to ask Mike to come up here and say a line because I can't remember it right. Our life exempt from public haunts.
Oh, yes. And this our life exempt from public haunt. You want that whole bit?
Yep.
Let's see. This our life exempt from public haunt finds tongues in trees, books in running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. I would not change it.
There we go. You might be less familiar with that one, but it is rather famous in literary circles as well and is parodied often. So there's a lot of fun little little gems to find in this play. Sorry, I have to find my notes here. So anyway, so there's a lot of little fun stuff. That's just kind of your introduction to the play. We're going to do a little scene for you, so you get a taste of what you'd be in for if you came and watched it. So I'm going to ask Orlando and Rosalind to enter now. Here they come. So we are going to do a scene from the middle of the play. So you need a little context. So this is Rosalind, and this is Orlando. Orlando and Rosalind met in the evil courts at the beginning of the show and fell instantly in love with each other. But then they were separated, and Rosalind was banished from the courts, and Orlando had to run away because people were trying to kill him, and they ran away to the forest. As Rosalind ran away to the forest, she was talking with her best friend, and she realizes, thieves and robbers like to target women. So in order to be safer, I'm going to pretend to be a man. So she has dressed herself as a man to deter thieves and scoundrels. And she has called herself Ganymede, which is a very old Greek name. So this is not Rosalind the fair maiden. This is Ganymede the rough and tumble boy. I think that's all people call him. Is hey boy, it's Ganymede. Orlando, after escaping, has spent his time in the forest writing greatly romantic love poems to Rosalind and sticking them on all the trees and all the bushes. And so the scene we are going to do is when they have, this is the second time they have met. the first time in the forest, and Orlando doesn't know that Ganymede is Rosalind. So with that, places please, and I will get the lights, and we will see what happens.
Oh, okay. I will speak to him like a saucy lackey, and under that habit play the knave with him. Do you hear, Forester?
Very well. What would you?
I pray thee, what is it o'clock?
You should ask what time of day it is. There's no clock in the forest.
Then there is no true lover in the forest. Else sighing every minute and groaning every hour would detect the lazy foot of time as well as the clock.
And why not the swift foot of time? Had that not been as proper?
By no means, sir. Time travels in diverse paces with diverse persons. I'll tell you who time trots withal, who time gallops withal, and who he stands withal.
I prithee, who doth time trot withal?
Mary, time trots hard with a young maid between the contract of her marriage and the day it is solemnized. If the interim be but a sennight, time paces so hard that it feels the length of 7 years.
Who doth time gallop withal?
With a thief to the gallows, for though he go as swiftly as foot can follow, he finds himself too soon there.
Who stays it still withal?
With lawyers in the vacations, for they sleep between term and term and perceive not how time moves.
Where dwell you, pretty youth?
With my sister here in the skirts of the forest, like fringe upon a petticoat.
Are you native of this place?
As the coney that you see dwell where she is kindled.
Your accent is something finer that could be purchased and so removed a dwelling.
I have been told so of many. For indeed, an old religious uncle of mine taught me how to speak, for in his youth was an inlandman who knew courtship too well, for there he fell in love. I have heard him read many lectures against it, and I thank God I am not a woman to be touched with so many giddy offenses that he hath generally taxed their whole sex withal.
Can you remember any of these principal evils he laid to the charge of women?
There were none principal. They were all like one another, as halfpence are, every fault seeming more monstrous till his fellow faults could match it.
I prithee, recount some of them.
Nay, I will not cast away my physic, but on those that are sick. There is a young man haunts this forest, abusing our young plants, carving Rosalind on their barks, hangs odes upon hawthorns and elegies on brambles, all forsooth deifying the name Rosalind. If I could meet that fancy monger, I would give him some good counsel, for he seems to have the quotidian of love about him.
I am he that is so love-shaked. I pray you, tell me your remedy.
There are none of my uncle's marks about you. He taught me how to know a man is in love. In which cage of rushes I am sure you are not prisoner.
What were his marks?
A lean cheek, a blue eye and sunken, an unquestionable spirit, a beard neglected, which you have not. But I pardon you for that, for simply in your having a beard is a younger brother's revenue. Then your hose should be ungartered, your sleeve unbuttoned, and your shoe untied, and everything about you demonstrating a careless desolation. But you are no such man.
Fair youth, I could make thee believe I love.
Me believe it. You may as seem as make her that you love believe it, which I warrant. She is apter to do than to confess she does. That is one of the points in which women still give lies to their consciences. But in good sooth, are you he that hangs the verses on the trees in which Rosalind is so admired?
Fair youth, by the white hand of Rosalind, I am that he, that unfortunate he.
But are you so much in love as your rhymes speak?
Neither rhyme nor reason can express how much.
Love is merely a madness, and I tell you, deserves as well as a dark house and a whip as madmen do, yet I profess curing it by counsel.
Did you ever cure any so?
Yes, one, and in this manner. He was to imagine me his love, his mistress, and I sought him out every day to come and woo me, in which, me being but a moonish youth, would grieve, be effeminate, changeable, longing and liking, proud, fantastical, shallow, inconstant, full of tears, full of smiles, would now like him, now loathe him, then entertain him, then forswear him, that I drove my suitor from his mad humor of love to live in a nook merely monastic, and thus I cured him. And this way I will take upon myself to wash your liver clean as a sound sheep's heart, that there will not be one spot of love in it.
I would not be cured, youth.
I would cure you if you would but call me Rosalind and come every day to my court and woo me.
What? Now, by the faith of my love, I will. Tell me where it is.
Go with me to it, and I'll show it. And by the way, you will show me where it is in the forest you live. Will you go?
With all my heart, good youth.
Nay, you must call me Rosalind. Come, Orlando.
They do a good job. And this is not the funniest scene in the play. You have to come see the play to get the funniest scene. All right. There are a few things I forgot to tell you about this play beforehand. So while they're getting their microphones off, I'm going to tell you. So this play originally is set in 17th century France, in the courts and in a forest. We have changed our setting, and it is set in 1980s New York. And our courts is an office building, and our forest is Central Park. So it's hence parky and a cityscape in the background. So this just took place somewhere in Central Park. So some of the color from the 80s that we have included in the song includes homeless persons wandering through the park trying to sell really bad art. John Harms plays that character. We have some street performers come out and do novelty acts, such as speed painting. We have multiple songs in the show sung by Brittany Hill. We also have some fights, just so you know, some rough and tumble, knockdown, really enjoyable fights. So those are just a couple fun things to look forward to. So at this time, I'd like to ask cast and crew to come on stage and find a place to sit. I know, none of you want to do it. You actually do. You want the attention, I can tell. So we would like to open this up for questions, if you have questions. And also, I have some questions to ask the cast so they can tell you a little bit about the process and the play. I forgot to turn lights on. Nathan, can you just turn the audience lights on? Because we want to see the audience. There we go. All right. Oh, hello, everybody. All right. So first off, I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves so you know who they are if you don't know them and what they are doing in the show. So I'm going to pass the mic off and just pass it on down.
Hello, my name is Francine Washington. I play Rosalind in this play.
My name's Callie Johnson. I play a couple roles, but mostly I just eat.
How am I supposed to follow that? I'm Mike Burke. I play Duke Sr., Charles the boxer, and Corwin the shepherd.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Zephaniah Hernandez, and I play Touchstone in the play.
I am Ethan Zachary Zerup the first, and I play Orlando.
I'm Michaela Hendry, and I play a couple ladies and Audrey. So.
I'm Brittany Hill, and I'm playing Duke Frederick, changed to Duchess Frida, Amiens, and that also engulfed a page, so there are no more pages if you know the show. I ate them. I'm also I'm doing hair and makeup as well as some choreography.
Hey, I'm Levi Bennett. I play Oliver.
I'm Ashley Hughesby, and I am assistant stage manager, so I get to yell at all of these lovely people.
Some people who are apparently too shy to come on stage. Adam Weeks is helping as stage crew and doing some speed painting for us. And then Che Page over there, she is doing props for us. So, say what? Oh, Ike, I didn't see Ike. Ike is also helping with scene changes, and so he has to do anything Ashley says he has to do immediately, otherwise suffer dire consequences. Julie, also back there, I thought she was up here, but she's not. She is our mic tech, so she puts mics on and off people. I think that's everybody I see in the audience. Oh, well, I assume that was, just a given. Nathan is running sound for us, so he's back in the booth. All right, did I miss anybody else? Okay, that's good. Everybody needs credit because this has been a long process and everybody's worked really hard. Okay, so I kind of want to open it up to you guys. Do you have any questions about the show, about the cast, about the actors, about the process, about the theater department, anything that struck your I'd like to know button? Oh, over here.
Was it necessary that Ethan had to change his hair color?
Well, I initially said no, but they were like, we want a more romantic look, and we had a lot of brunettes. So he needs a little bit more toning on the head, so blue shampoo.
And that actually brings up a good point. Some of the stuff that you have to take into account with design choices is setting people apart. And because Orlando is the main romantic male lead, we wanted to set him apart from everybody else, so we changed the color of his hair. Also, it's really fun because it's not permanent, and he gets to try blondish for a few months, and he gets to see what it's like. Any other questions, thoughts? No? No? Oh!
So y'all changed, the setting, to New York and all that, 1980s. Did you change any of the names of the people? So we got Orlando, Rosalind, or did the original names for the original play, or did you change them off a bit?
They are the original names. We kept all the original names and pretty much all the original dialogue. We try to find modern equivalents to old things that they talk about. Like we talk about sheep at one point. So we try to draw the connection that when Touchstone is like, or goats. Come, Audrey, let me fetch up your goats. We're talking about food, not goats. And we have a picnic going on. And so it's not a perfect one-to-one because, oh gosh, we don't have any sheep on stage. There's just some old things, but the language needs to stay the same, and that's in respect to the original author, Shakespeare. We are just kind of trying to adapt it and set it in a different setting. Yeah. Any other questions before I start gabbing? Dr. Bittner has a question. Do you have a mic up there? Why the 1980s? So the 1980s was a really interesting decade in American history where the main reason we chose it here is there was an artistic, almost a rebellion in the 80s where you got really crazy fashion, you got really crazy music, and there was, if you watch any 80s movies, specifically ones involving teenagers, it's all about our parents suck and we want to do our own thing. Now, this is not a parenting show, But what was interesting is there was a spirit of rebellion in the 80s. And we're not going with the rebellion, but rather the separation. There was discontent. People felt trapped. People felt abused. And that came out a lot in the artistic expression. So and in this play, we have two different worlds, the court and the forest. And the court is very controlling. Duchess Frida, played by Brittany, it's her way or the highway. And so there is absolutely zero personal freedom. And if you step out of line, you get your knuckles cracked with a nutcracker. That doesn't happen in the show. How are your knuckles doing, Levi? And so with that dichotomy, we're just trying to bring out that spirit of experimentation and trying new forms of art. Our stage floor is inspired by Jackson Pollock, who essentially just started splattering paint on canvases and calling it art, and it became really famous and popular. And so finding the individuality of life that we can only find in Christ, with the freedom of being secure in our relationship with Jesus Christ and not having to be constrained to sin, constrained to really restrictive, abusive situations, and being able to break out of that. And so we're trying to draw the connection with that spirit from the 80s. Hopefully that answered the question. I kind of ramble. Any other thoughts, questions? Do you want the mic? Do it for online.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Mike brought back his look from the 80s and his take on Gen Z's view of the 80s.
For the record, I looked awesome in the 80s. Actually, none of my looks made it into the show, I think, from those days. Although, Charles, not yet. I do have to wear a wig that may resemble a mullet, though. So that, I'm not claiming. Yeah. So clearly, Gen Z's view of that era was awesome. Appreciate the invitation, brother. Yeah, I'm sad you got rid of it. I don't know. Does someone want to talk? Why is it all about me? We didn't get to wear stuff I would have liked to have seen, like parachute pants and was MC Hammer pants or stuff like that. But there is a real look, I think, a feel for that. And if you've watched, I think we brought up movies. If you watch 80s movies, some of those themes, especially shows about like corporate life and some of those romantic comedies from that era, I think are reflected in a lot of the things we do. So if you were, I don't know, if you've ever listened to 80s music or watched 80s movies or lived through it, I think you'll recognize some of those things and it'll be fun. And you get to mock me later, because, yeah.
Some of the costuming choices were made strictly for time and money reasons, so yeah, so no parachute pants, sorry. But the 80s was a really interesting time for fashion. It was like a subculture movement, but the fashion was literally pirates in the 80s. And so we contemplated dressing up Orlando like a pirate. But it was one person in a very small part of the fashion world at the time, and it was just too dissonant with all the rest of the costumes. So we changed it. Mike kind of mentioned it, and I forgot it because I was focusing on the artistic side of the 80s. There were some rather large financial scandals in the 80s. There are plays and documentaries about it, such as Glenn Ross. I think I got that right. There are plays about it, and that was one of the reasons we chose to set our court in an office building, specifically like an insurance company office, like insurances and finances, stock markets, because there was a couple large scandals in the area of essentially just greed and control outrunning common sense, and so helps the difference. Okay. Any other questions, or should I start asking? Oh.
Could we have a couple of favorite, like, random quotes with no context?
Coming over here first.
My personal favorite is "My affection hath an unknown bottom."
That's going on a T-shirt, I think. I don't know. Oh, here you go.
Yes. I will kill thee 150 ways.
Mine is, for I must tell you friendly in your ear, sell when you can. You are not for all markets.
That is a great line.
Anyone?
Oh, Francine stole mine. That was mine.
Okay. We don't want to give them all away. Any questions, queries, statements of fact? Okay, then I'm going to ask the cast a question. What is your favorite part of the play? They surprised me last night with the conga line during curtain call, and it's pretty funny, so we're keeping it. So.
There's a decent amount of stage fight, and well, we got 2 scenes that have some stage fight in it, and it is a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to watch from what I hear, and it is quite enjoyable, and we get to like mock each other and we hit each other, and it's a good time. So the stage fight is my favorite part of the show, personally.
And Ethan is in both of them.
I am in both of them.
What's your favorite part of the stage fight?
Oh man, favorite part of the stage fight. I don't know how much can I give away?
Just one thing.
Okay, I get to knock out Mike. It's so great. I get to do it for once in my life.
Dream on. Only because Shakespeare said so.
Right. Any other favorite parts?
Oh, yeah. This is the technical side. I do several quick changes with Tori Roberts. She's my makeup and hair quick change. And we have, well, it's his role of LeBeau, but John Harms, he comes on with a little pencil mustache and a curly wig. So if you can find him and look at him, that's my favorite part of the show at the moment.
That character literally screams used car salesman. It's hysterical. He even has a tweed suit and bright white shoes. So, yeah, like, don't buy a car from this person. Any other favorite parts? No? No? What do you eat on stage, Jacques?
I eat popcorn. I eat chocolate. I eat ramen noodles. I eat grapes.
Just like in the dorm.
Yeah, business as usual, really. Occasionally I get a little bit of cheese in there. That might be it.
Ashley, you had a favorite part?
Well, I do a busking act every now and then where Adam plays the recorder and I bark a classical tune, and that is a good time. So if you come, you should see that.
Oh, Ethan's got one.
I also get to drink a Coke out of a glass bottle, and it is great. I love glass bottle Coke.
Is it really any different? All right. After that, has anybody else thought of any other questions? All right. Moving on to the next prompt, if I get to the right page. All right. Do you have a funny story of the process? Something that happened in set construction, rehearsal, a horrible mishap that happened on stage, any of those fun just things that happen when you try rehearsing a play? We got Francine and then Levi.
I have a favorite one. It's in one of the scenes where I am with Sylvius, and he's giving me a letter to his unrequited love named Phoebe, and I do not like Phoebe, and she comes out out of the area over there, and she's speaking one of her lines, and she like, oh, I am in the wrong scene, and she goes through the curtain, and Sylvius is like, hey, I have a letter to give you. It's from Phoebe. Her? Yes. And I just take the letter. It's my favorite part.
We're all human. We forget things. And Phoebe got the scenes mixed up and came on in the totally wrong scene. And so it was excellent improv in that rehearsal to kind of recover from such a large mistake. All right, Levi, what's your favorite story?
Well, with the rehearsal process, things start to get really sluggish in the last couple of weeks. So lately I've been saying, like, for the last couple of days, this week has been a long month. Or just like last week, our first day of rehearsals for the week. Today's been a long week.
It's a lot of work.
So there was one we were rehearsing in the green room, and we were just running through stuff, and a thought came to mind, and I said it out loud, which I wasn't expecting. But I was like, it's pretty fun acting like an attractive person. It's pretty enjoyable. And of course, everyone heard me, and they're like, "What did you just say?" And I was like, "Oh crap! I said it out loud, didn't I?"
Any last minute funny stories? Or next question? Audience, any questions now? Oh, we got another one.
My question is, are you all like serial people who are involved in the play, or are there any first timers?
If this is your first full production, raise your hand. So we just got a couple.
And a follow-up for the newbies. How's it going? What have you learned?
You stole my question. So just one of the things that you were surprised you learned, or just it was good to learn?
Well, yeah, it was good to learn kind of how to act, because I hadn't, I acted in Winter Shorts. I'm sure some of you saw that, but never been part of a full-length production, so learning a lot. Now I don't have to take acting 1, so.
I think what I learned from it is how much work goes behind a production like this. Like, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of time, but it's a lot of fun, too. So it's like, it's just a lot of things rolled into one. So you got quick changes, and you got hair and makeup, and you got costumes, and then you have the acting and set and just a bunch of small things that you have to rehearse and redo. So it takes time, but it's a lot of fun, and you really get into your characters and stuff like that. So.
I have an important question I want to ask, and then we'll open it back up if you think of another question, audience. Why should people come see the show?
You get to see Mike dance.
Nobody's clapping.
Another reason? Anybody? Got another reason? Zeph's got another one.
So, one of my characters is going to progressively throughout the show have less and less articles of clothing on. So be on the lookout for that.
I feel like that should have been in the out of context portion of this interview. That gives a really wrong impression of what is actually happening. But Touchstone's character does start in a full suit, and the farther the play goes, the more frazzled he becomes, and he can't keep his whole act together. So he loses a tie, the jacket, the vest, shirts come untucked. It's fun. It's a fun devolution of the character. Anybody else have another reason? One more?
It's fun. You're stressed. We're stressed. Everyone's stressed. You need to laugh. It's fun.
There you go. All right. Anybody think of any other questions? Leah has a question. Sorry. I only have 2 eyes.
Aside from just the adventure of learning Shakespearean lines, what's another difficulty that you've had to overcome, like an obstacle that you've had to work through in this process, aside from memorizing lines?
Answer.
Because this answer has 2 parts. No. First of all, it's difficult to memorize Shakespeare, right? Just if you've ever read it, you're like, why are people reading this for pleasure? And as the actors, it's not only don't get mad at me. She likes reading it for fun. I don't get it. Well, and not only difficult to memorize, right? Because it's like pseudo English, but you actually have to know what it means, what you're saying, and then on top of that, we're also trying to express what we're saying through movement by acting and not just using our words, right? So that's, I think, been a challenge because sometimes you might not understand what the line means, but you're going to figure it out by what we're doing. And I think that's a big part it's a big challenge for us, I think, to be able to execute that without just through our words. Does that make sense? So that's been a big challenge for me particularly. I'm like, I've been saying these lines for 4 weeks. I still don't know what I'm saying. So getting that out there is huge, right?
Another thing with the actual lines is it's not super bad for me, but also it's just sometimes there's parts in the show where it's monologue answered by monologue. It is like that is one rough part, and it's hard to act with that too, because like there's times even in this last one where in this scene that you showed that like there's times where I don't speak for a long period of time, and I have to keep in character and listen and react to what she's saying, and it's difficult to do. It's more difficult than you think it is because it's just like you're like, oh yeah, they're just talking, you just listen, but you have to react to what they're listening to. You have to take in what they're listening to, or what you're listening to, and it's just. But also it's hard saying it. Like Francine has just a lot of just full like half-page monologues of just ramble. And there's even a time where like where it's even kind of humorous how long. Like there's one scene where I'm talking to John's character and I'm just going on and on and on. I'm like, get up and go, just do something, stop talking. But it's just that is definitely a hard part too. It's just the staying in character with long monologues, both saying them and listening to them.
To expand on that, modern culture has kind of gotten shorter and shorter. Social media compressing size of thoughts, and that's one reason why it's difficult to learn Shakespeare. But Shakespeare is worth doing because you will have a beautiful thought, but it takes half a page of dialogue to express, and it is expounded upon and talked about in several different ways. And so, yeah, it's really hard to learn, but that's one of the beauties of Shakespeare is the multitude of expressions of thoughts and how to describe it with artistic descriptions. Callie's got another one.
I actually just want to copy what he said. I think the idea of taking a little snippet, you can say this in 5 words, but we're going to say it in a page. I love that concept because that's what you see in the Psalms. I can say, life sucks, but God is good, and it doesn't mean that much to you. You're like, that's gross. But if I take a page and a half, if I use 37 different metaphors, like, you get an understanding of that you wouldn't get if I just said, life sucks, God is good.
So... Excellent. I was going to make a heretical joke and say, so Shakespeare should be in the Bible? No, not serious. Where's the heresy buzzer? Any other? Ashley's got one.
Okay, so mine's on the technical side of things. So just a little bit of forward to what I'm going to say. I am very busy, for some of you who know that. And I decided not to audition for the play because I don't have time. Instead, I decided to stage manage, where I have even less time, which is really exciting. And you have to be at almost all of the rehearsals, and you have to be there before and after everyone else. So kind of hurt myself on that one. But for me, I've never stage managed before. I've been crew, but I've never stage managed. So I have to learn how to be listening for the things on stage, be listening to my headset, be setting up like the different scene changes, be taking care of anything that they need, make sure that they know they have to be on stage, making sure they look good, all of those things. And then also homework. So I've just learned how to be better at that, or actually just do it. And so Becky and Kenneth have been very patient with me, which I've really appreciated. And I've learned a lot, and I'm excited for this show, and I hope you guys come see it.
As important as all of our actors are, this show could not happen without Ashley. So if Ashley got sick or something, we probably wouldn't have a show. So give her food, give her sleep. And honestly, I was a little surprised you said yes to be the ASM. Very grateful, but very surprised. All right, I have another question for Cass. So you can just raise your hand. I'll hand the mic to you from behind. Who's the best character in the show? This can be funniest, most compelling, stupidest. It's William.
Any character John Harms is playing in this play is absolutely awesome and hilarious. So keep an eye out for him.
He got all of the weird side characters that have very strange quirks, and he commits to them. So he's very entertaining to watch. So other than John characters, best character? Yeah.
I think the best character is Jacquees, mostly because she is the epitome of emo girl central, and that is everything I wanted to be when I was 12 years old. So I love her for that. So yeah.
All right, we have about 5 minutes. So audience questions, last chance. Okie dokie. One last question. This is the hardest question I asked you to prepare for. Where have you found intersections between our play, our process, and your faith?
You kind of already touched on it a little bit, but we talked about in when we were starting up was the world of measurement and the world of possibility. And my character goes through a really big change in that, and it really goes from one scene to another. I go from a guy that's like, there's no possibility, like, and there's like, this is how things are just supposed to go, and if this happens, you're supposed to do this, and it's a very like. Again, very trapped feeling where I'm talked about I'm banished, and I'm just like I give up. I'm almost like giving up because I'm like I'm gonna have to become a thief and have to steal from people, and I'm like I can't do that. I'm a good person. I can't be a thief. And so it's just like what am I gonna do? Am I gonna beg? No, I can't I can't be a beggar. No, I can't do that. And so it's but then when I get to the forest and I start interacting with characters in the forest, I begin to realize that that the people out here are good people. There's nice people in the world, and that I can be more than just trapped in this system that I think is what I have to be in. And then I really, from one scene to another, I become a very like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? To a, oh, Rosalind, and so. It's okay. Yeah, so I go from like from that to a very like I can actually like indulge in my love and my passion for Rosalind, but.
Well, there are several parallels, but one thing that I really love about Shakespeare is that you can say the line so many times, you can read it so many times, but you never catch everything the first time around. And where do we find that as well? In the Bible. You could read a verse or memorize a verse so many times, and then you're like, oh, that's what that meant. Why was I stupid with that? Yeah, so like Kenneth told me the difference between thou and you, and I was like, what? I've been saying this line forever. And so just come see the show, then you'll understand. We have empathy.
The difference between thou and you in Shakespeare is that when you say thou, you are actually being derogatory. And when you say you are being respectful. So it's kind of opposite what you might think, because nowadays we speak differently. As Ethan was talking about being Orlando, I don't know who anybody is anymore. Everybody has 5 identities. I realized I forgot to talk about a little bit about the themes of the show. And so he mentioned the world of measurement and the world of possibility. This comes from a textbook we use in Christ and Creativity class, in which life is conceptualized into 2 different worlds, the world of measurement and of possibility. The book is not written from a Christian perspective, but it meshes very well with a Christian worldview, because the world of measurement can be thought of as the fallen world. And the fallen world is full of fear, it's full of anger, it's full of entrapment. It's a world of scarcity, where if There's only so many resources. And so if you are going to survive, you have to take resources from somebody else. So it's very fear-driven. It fosters a worldview where everyone is out to get you, and the only way to win is to put everybody else down. The world of measurement is exactly the opposite. It is a world of abundance, where if you take a piece of a pie, the pie will generate another piece. By taking from a collective pot conceptually, you're not actually taking from anything. There's just more to go around. The more you give, the more you have. I feel like there's a miracle along those lines. And it's a world of love. It's a world of expression. I firmly believe that we would not have good art without the influence of the Holy Spirit, even working upon the hearts of non-professed Christians. And so artistic expression is heavily dependent upon a world of freedom, of the comfort, the security to express yourself and not be judged, to be accepted into the fold. Where is that? I think there's something called the crucifixion, the gospel, about taking you as you are and forgiving you of your sins. And so all that we think of as good is inherent in the world of possibility, because it is possible to talk, to treat other people decently. The golden rule is, I can't remember the verse, but treating other people the way you want to be treated, because God created us all, and so treating each other with respect, handling each other's challenges, each other's sore spots, injuries, both mental, emotional, and physical, with respect and healing with the word of God, instead of judging and creating barriers. The world of measurement is full of disunity and separation and isolation. The world of possibility is full of communion and sharing. And those are the big things that we want to emphasize between the difference in the two locations. And so that's what Ethan was referring to. I realized I did not give good context for that. Oh, nuts. Okay, you have like 30 seconds.
Okay, so one of my favorite things about the connection with the Christian life is one of the longest metaphors in the Bible is garden. We start in garden, we end in garden, all throughout. In the temple, there is garden, there's pomegranates, there's trees. In the tabernacle, garden. We have all this garden imagery because the garden is where God is with us. And here we have running away to the forest, but it's not just the forest. This is garden. This is the hope of restoration that says, yes, things are sketchy, but they can be better. This is the world of possibility. And I think the hope of restoration is like the biggest thing to be excited about.
Thank you. That's a really good note to end on. Before any dancing jokes or any other jokes we have about this show, we're going to end. So that is that. Because we are at time. So we're going to close in prayer and then go get your lunch. I will leave it open if you want to talk to us individually. And you can catch the cast before they run to lunch. By all means, we love to talk. So come up and ask questions if you have them.